The alarm bells rang through the UE's horizon as Commander Jake Morrison rushed down the metal corridors toward the communications bay. His boots made sharp sounds on the floor as he moved past crew members who looked worried and confused. The ship had been on routine patrol near Jupiter when the strange signals started coming in 3 days ago. Jake pushed through the heavy doors into the communications center, where banks of computers and screens covered every wall. The room buzzed with activity as technicians worked at their stations, trying to make sense of the weird transmissions that kept getting stronger each day. Dia Lisa Chun stood at the main console with her hands moving quickly across the holographic displays. She was the best language expert in the fleet, and if anyone could figure out what these signals meant, it would be her. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked as he walked up behind her. The screens showed wave patterns and mathematical symbols. That meant nothing to him, but Lisa studied them like they were the most important thing in the universe. "It's definitely a message, Commander, and it's repeating every 6 hours," Lisa said without looking away from her work. "The mathematical parts are easy to understand, but there are emotional patterns mixed in that I have never seen before. Whoever sent this is scared. Jake really scared." Jake watched the displays change as Lisa worked her magic on the alien transmission. The ship around them felt different, somehow like they were standing at the edge of something huge. Earth had been listening to space for over 50 years, but they had never heard anything like this before. "Can you translate it?" Jake asked. "Give me another hour," Lisa replied. "The basic structure is similar to how we might send a distress call, but the way they put emotions into mathematics is incredible. These beings think very differently than we do." Jake left Lisa to her work and walked to the observation deck where he could see the stars. Space looked the same as always, but knowing that someone out there was trying to talk to them made everything feel different. He thought about Earth and all the people who had no idea that today might be the day everything changed. 2 hours later, Lisa called him back to the communications bay. Her face was pale, and her hands shook a little as she showed him what she had found. "It's a plea for help, Jake," she said quietly. "They call themselves the Kefara Collective, and they represent 7 different alien species. They are being destroyed by something they call the Devourer Swarm, and they are asking for help from anyone who can hear them." The main screen showed a translation of the message, and Jake read it twice before the words really hit him. The aliens talked about worlds being consumed and entire civilizations disappearing. They mentioned billions of lives lost and fleets destroyed. But what caught his attention most was a single line near the end. "We have heard rumors of a species from a death world," Jake read out loud. "Being so strong they survive on a planet that kills most life. If you exist, please help us. We are dying." "They mean us," Lisa said. "Earth is what they call a death world. Most planets that support life are much gentler than ours. They think we might be strong enough to help them fight this swarm thing." Jake stared at the message for a long time. Earth had always seemed normal to him, but he had read the reports about how deadly their planet was compared to most worlds in the galaxy. The gravity was heavy, the weather was violent, and the animals were dangerous. Maybe that made humans tougher than other species. "Send this to Admiral Carter immediately," Jake ordered, "and prepare a detailed report on everything we know about the transmission source and signal strength." Within 6 hours, the message had reached Earth Defense Command headquarters, where Admiral Ryan Carter sat in a meeting room with the most important military leaders on the planet. The gray-haired admiral had fought in 3 wars and seen humanity through some of its darkest times, but this was something entirely new. "The transmission is definitely from outside our solar system," reported Lieutenant Colonel Sam Bradley as he showed the gathered officers a star map. "Based on signal degradation and timing, we estimate it comes from approximately 47 light-years away in the direction of the constellation Lyra. General Patricia Wong from the Space Marines leaned forward in her chair. "What do we know about this devourer swarm they mention?" "Nothing concrete," Sam replied. "But based on the emotional content of the message and the way they describe their losses, we are looking at something that has destroyed multiple civilizations. The aliens seem to think conventional weapons and tactics have failed completely." Admiral Carter stood and walked to the large window that showed Earth spinning slowly below them. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from space, but Carter knew better. Every living thing down there had survived millions of years of disasters. That would have wiped out most species. Maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. "How long would it take to assemble a response fleet?" Carter asked. 48 hours for a small force," answered Admiral Helen Torres from the Navy. "A week for something substantial. But, sir, we have no idea what we would be flying into. This could be suicide." Carter turned back to face the room. "Sometimes the right answer is not the safe answer. These beings reached out to us because they think we are strong enough to help them. If we ignore their call for help, we may never get another chance to prove that humanity belongs among the stars." The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would answer the alien call for help. Orders went out to every major naval base, and within hours, ships began moving toward the assembly point near Luna Station. Captain Maya Rodriguez received her orders while the USS Defiance was docked at Mars Station for routine maintenance. The massive dreadnought was the newest ship in the fleet, and Maya was proud to command her. The ship stretched over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. If humanity was going to make a first impression on alien civilizations, Maya wanted it to be a strong one. "All hands prepare for immediate departure," Maya announced over the ship intercom. "We have received a distress call from alien civilizations and Earth has decided to respond. This is not a drill. We are going to make first contact with beings from another world, and they need our help." The crew of the Defiance moved with practiced efficiency as they prepared their ship for the most important mission in human history. Chief Engineer Ben Parker ran diagnostics on all major systems, while Dr. Amanda Foster checked the weapons arrays. Every person on the ship knew they were about to make history. Similar scenes played out across dozens of ships as the human fleet assembled. Captain Danny Wright took his destroyer UES Falcon through final preparations, while Captain Tony Mitchell did the same with the UES Ranger. These were not exploration vessels built for science and diplomacy. They were warships designed to fight and win battles in the darkness between stars. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship UES Liberty as the fleet gathered around Luna Station. 47 ships from tiny corvettes to massive battle cruisers, all ready to jump into the unknown. Each ship carried the hopes of 8 billion humans and the desperate prayers of alien civilizations they had never met. "Signal from all ships." "Admiral," reported the communications officer. "Fleet is ready for jump." Carter looked out at the assembled vessels and felt the weight of history on his shoulders. In a few minutes, they would leave the solar system for the first time as a military force. They were going to fight beings they had never seen to protect aliens they had never met. It was insane and dangerous, and exactly the kind of thing humans did when someone asked for help. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he said into the fleet communication system. "Today we answer the call of beings who reached across the galaxy looking for help. They asked for warriors from a death world, and that is exactly what they are going to get. Jump drives to full power. Destination Cathara home system. Let us show the galaxy what humans can do." The space around Luna Station filled with brilliant light as 47 ships engaged their jump drives simultaneously. In seconds, the fleet vanished into hyperspace carrying humanity toward its destiny among the stars. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that the age of isolation had just ended forever. The human fleet traveled through hyperspace for 3 days before reaching the edge of known space. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES, Defiance, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main view screen. Her ship was the largest in the fleet and carried some of humanity's most advanced weapons, but she wondered if it would be enough against an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. "Captain, we are receiving updated intelligence from Earth Command," reported Lieutenant Kelly Brooks from the communications station. Maya walked over to review the new information that had been transmitted through quantum relay stations along their route. The data painted a grim picture of the Devourer swarm. Earth's long-range telescopes had detected massive energy signatures in the Cathara system and the destruction of at least 3 planets. Spectral analysis showed that whatever was happening out there involved technology beyond anything humans had ever seen. "Chief Parker, report to the bridge," Maya ordered through the ship intercom. Ben Parker arrived within minutes, still wearing his engineering coveralls and carrying a tablet full of diagnostic reports. He was the best engineer in the fleet, and Maya trusted his judgment completely. "What is the status of our weapons systems, Chief?" Maya asked. "All plasma cannons are operating at peak efficiency, Captain," Ben replied. "The new targeting computers are locked and loaded, and our missile batteries are fully stocked. But, Captain, I have to be honest with you. If these aliens have technology that can destroy planets, our weapons might not be enough." Maya nodded thoughtfully. Human weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat and planetary bombardment, but they had never faced anything like the Devourer swarm. Still, she had faith in human engineering and the fighting spirit of her crew. Dr. Amanda Foster entered the bridge carrying a large case of data chips and looking excited despite the serious situation. Amanda was the fleet's weapons specialist, and she had been working around the clock to analyze the alien technology data that had been included with the distress message. "Captain, I think I have found something important," Amanda said as she connected her portable computer to the bridge systems. "The Kithera sent us technical specifications for their weapons and defenses, and I have been comparing them to our own systems." The main screen filled with diagrams showing alien energy weapons and defensive shields. The technology was beautiful and efficient, but Amanda had noticed something the aliens had missed. "Their weapons are incredibly advanced," Amanda explained. "Pure energy beams that can cut through almost any material, and shields that can deflect enormous amounts of power. But look at this." Amanda highlighted sections of the alien ship designs, and Maya could see what she meant. Every system was built around energy-based technology. The aliens had perfected energy weapons and energy defenses, but they seemed to have forgotten about older methods of warfare. "They have no kinetic weapons," Maya realized. "No bullets, no missiles, no railguns. Everything is energy-based." "Exactly," Amanda said with a smile. "And that means their defenses are probably optimized for energy attacks. Our railguns and missile systems might be much more effective than they expect." Maya felt a surge of hope. Human military doctrine had always emphasized having multiple types of weapons for different situations. While they had energy weapons too, they had never abandoned the simple effectiveness of throwing very large objects at enemy ships. Very quickly, across the fleet, similar discoveries were being made. Captain Tony Mitchell, aboard the destroyer UES Ranger, was reviewing the tactical data with his weapons officer, Lieutenant Chris Davis. The Ranger was a small ship, but it was fast and carried an impressive array of kinetic weapons, including experimental railguns that could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. "Sir, if their shields are designed for energy weapons, our railguns should punch right through them," Chris reported excitedly. Kinetic energy is much harder to deflect than particle beams or plasma bolts. Captain Danny Wright on the UES Falcon was having similar thoughts as he studied the alien fleet compositions. The young captain had graduated from the military academy just 2 years ago, but he had studied military history extensively, and he remembered lessons from Earth's past. "You know what this reminds me of," Danny said to his executive officer, Commander Lisa Stone, "when European armies first encountered gunpowder weapons in Asia. The Europeans had armor designed to stop swords and arrows, but it was useless against bullets. You think we might have the same advantage?" Lisa asked. "Maybe," Danny replied. "The aliens have been fighting energy weapon battles for so long, they might have forgotten how to deal with good old-fashioned projectiles." Admiral Carter received reports from across the fleet as his officers analyzed the alien data. The UES Liberty was equipped with the latest quantum communication systems that allowed real-time coordination between all 47 ships, even while traveling through hyperspace. "Admiral, we are getting similar reports from every ship in the fleet," Lieutenant Colonel Sam Bradley informed him. "Our weapons specialists all agree that the alien defenses seem to be optimized for energy-based attacks. Our kinetic weapons might be more effective than we originally thought." Carter nodded, but remained cautious. "That is good news, Sam, but we cannot become overconfident. These devourers destroyed multiple civilizations that had thousands of years more experience with space warfare than we do. There must be something we are missing." The fleet continued through hyperspace, while crews across all ships prepared for battle. Ammunition was loaded, weapons were calibrated, and armor plating was inspected for flaws. Every human warrior knew they were heading into the unknown, but they were ready to fight. Captain Sarah Blake commanded the heavy cruiser UES Thunder, and she was particularly interested in the defensive capabilities of human ships. Her vessel carried some of the thickest armor in the fleet, and she wondered how it would hold up against alien weapons. "Commander Turner, what is your assessment of our defensive systems?" Sarah asked her tactical officer. "Well, Captain, our armor was designed to withstand anything from nuclear weapons to asteroid impacts," Alex Turner replied. "If the aliens rely primarily on energy weapons, our hulls should provide excellent protection. Plus, our point defense systems are designed to stop incoming missiles and debris, which might give us an advantage against swarm tactics." Sarah smiled. "Human ships were built like mobile fortresses, because space was a dangerous place even without enemy fire. Meteor impacts, radiation storms, and equipment failures could all destroy a vessel, so human engineers had learned to build ships that could survive almost anything." The preparations continued as the fleet approached the Kithara system. Medical bays were stocked with supplies, damage control teams rehearsed emergency procedures, and pilots prepared their fighter craft for launch. Everyone knew that the next few days would determine not just their own fate, but the future of humanity's relationship with the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Chun worked in her laboratory aboard the UES Horizon, trying to learn more about Kithara biology and psychology from the data they had provided. Understanding how the aliens thought and fought might give the human fleet crucial advantages in the coming battle. "Commander Morrison, I think I have learned something important about our new allies," Lisa reported to Jake over the ship's communication system. "The Kithara think very differently than humans do. They value precision, efficiency, and minimal casualties above all else. Their military doctrine seems to focus on surgical strikes and avoiding unnecessary destruction." Jake considered this information carefully. "How does that compare to human military thinking?" "We are almost complete opposites," Lisa replied. "Human military doctrine accepts that war is chaotic and unpredictable. We plan for things to go wrong, and we are willing to accept heavy casualties to achieve victory. The Kithara seem to expect everything to go according to plan. This difference in thinking might explain why the Kithara had been unable to stop the Devourer swarm. If the aliens relied on careful planning and precise execution, they might not know how to adapt when their enemy proved unpredictable. As the fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace near the Cathara system, Admiral Carter addressed all ships over the fleet communication network. His words were broadcast to every crew member in the 47-ship Armada. Warriors of Earth, in a few hours we will enter the Cathara system and face an enemy unlike anything humanity has ever encountered. We go into battle not for conquest or glory, but to answer the call of beings who asked for our help. They reached across the galaxy because they believe we are strong enough to do what their own forces could not. Let us prove them right. All ships prepare for combat operations. This is Admiral Carter. End transmission. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cathara system, ready to face whatever awaited them in the darkness between alien stars. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace and immediately found themselves in the middle of a nightmare. The Cathara system was filled with debris from destroyed ships and the burnt remains of what had once been thriving planets. Captain Tony Mitchell aboard the destroyer UES Ranger was the first to spot the enemy, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Massive mechanical creatures, the size of city blocks, moved through space like schools of deadly fish. Each devourer drone was covered in black metal that seemed to absorb light, and they moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. There were thousands of them, maybe millions, all working together to strip everything useful from the dying system. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Chris Davis as he stared at the tactical display showing enemy positions. "Captain, there are so many of them. How are we supposed to fight something like this?" Tony forced himself to stay calm, even though his hands were shaking. "We do our job, Lieutenant. Send a message to Admiral Carter and tell him we have visual contact with the enemy. Then start charging our weapon systems." Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as human crews got their first look at the Devourer swarm. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance and watched the enemy formations with the eye of an experienced warrior. The swarm moved like a living thing, but she could see patterns in their movement that might be exploited. "Chief Parker, bring all weapons online," Maya ordered. "Commander Stone, prepare the fighters for launch. We are going to show these machines what happens when they threaten innocent people." The communication systems crackled to life as Admiral Carter coordinated the fleet response from his flagship. But before the humans could attack, they received an incoming transmission from the last surviving Cathara station, orbiting the system's innermost planet. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral HFY of the Cathara Defense Force," came a translated voice that sounded exhausted and desperate. "Please identify yourselves. If you are more refugees seeking shelter, I must warn you that this system is lost. The Devourers will consume you, as they have consumed everything else." Captain Tony Mitchell was closest to the Cathara station, so he responded first. "Admiral HFY, this is Captain Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call and we are here to help. What is your current tactical situation?" There was a long pause before the alien commander replied, and when he did, his voice carried a mixture of disbelief and desperate hope. "Deathworlders, you actually came. Captain, I have 300 ships left from a fleet that once numbered in the thousands. We are protecting the last evacuation transports, but our weapons are nearly useless against the swarm. They adapt to our energy weapons within hours of first contact." Admiral Carter joined the conversation from the UES Liberty. "Admiral HFY, this is Admiral Carter, commanding the Human Relief Force. We have studied the technical data you provided, and we believe our weapons may be more effective against the swarm than yours have been. Are you willing to coordinate a joint attack?" "Admiral Carter, any help you can provide would be a blessing from the ancestors," HFY replied. "But I must warn you, these creatures are not like any enemy we have ever faced. They learn from every battle, and they never stop coming. My people have been fighting them for 6 months, and we have yet to find a weakness. Captain Sarah Blake, aboard the heavy cruiser UES Thunder, was studying the enemy formations with her tactical officer, Commander Alex Turner. The swarm drones moved in perfect geometric patterns that would have been beautiful if they were not so deadly. But Sarah noticed something the aliens had missed. "Alex, look at their hull configurations," Sarah said as she highlighted enemy ships on the tactical display. "Maximum energy dispersion, minimal kinetic resistance. They have adapted their armor to deflect energy weapons, but look at the structural weak points." Alex studied the data, and his eyes widened as he understood what Sarah was seeing. "Captain, their armor is designed like a mirror to reflect energy attacks, but that makes it brittle against physical impact. Our railguns should punch right through those hulls." Similar discoveries were being made across the human fleet as officers analyzed the enemy formations. The Devourer swarm had evolved perfect defenses against energy weapons, but they had not encountered kinetic weapons in so long that their armor was actually vulnerable to old-fashioned projectiles. Amanda Foster transmitted her analysis to all ships in the fleet. "All vessels, this is Dr. Foster with tactical update. Enemy armor shows maximum energy resistance, but minimal kinetic protection. Recommend priority use of railguns, missiles, and kinetic weapons. Energy weapons should be used only for point defense and finishing shots." Admiral Carter felt a surge of confidence as reports came in from across the fleet. Human weapons technology that the aliens might consider primitive was about to give them a crucial advantage in the coming battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We are going to show these Devourers what happens when they pick a fight with warriors from a death world. Battle stations. Launch all fighters. Prepare for full assault." The space around the human fleet erupted in activity as 47 warships prepared for battle. Fighter craft launched from carrier bays, while massive battleships charged their main guns. The U's Defiance alone carried enough firepower to level a small moon, and Captain Maya Rodriguez was eager to use it. But before the battle could begin, the swarm detected the human fleet and began moving to intercept them. Thousands of Devourer drones turned away from their harvesting operations and formed attack formations that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Admiral SciFi watched from his command station as the human ships prepared for battle. The Kithara commander had fought the swarm for months and seen countless brave warriors die in futile attacks against the mechanical invaders. He did not want to see these potential allies destroyed, but he had little hope that their outcome would be different. Captain Mitchell Zephi transmitted to the nearest human ship. "The swarm is moving to engage your fleet. Their standard tactic is to overwhelm enemies with superior numbers while adapting to whatever weapons are used against them. I recommend long-range engagement to minimize casualties." Tony Mitchell smiled grimly as he watched the enemy formations approaching. "Thank you for the warning, Admiral, but humans do not fight at long range when someone needs help. We prefer to get up close and personal." The first swarm attack came as a wave of energy beams that lit up space like deadly fireworks. But the human ships did not try to dodge or retreat. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the enemy formations. With their guns blazing, Captain Danny Wright aboard the destroyer UES Falcon was among the first to engage the enemy. His small ship dove through a formation of Devourer drones while firing its railguns as fast as they could cycle. The depleted uranium rounds punched through swarm armor like it was made of paper, and Danny whooped with joy as enemy ships exploded around him. "This is Falcon to all ships," Danny transmitted excitedly. "The railguns work beautifully. Their armor cannot stop kinetic rounds. Repeat, their armor cannot stop kinetic rounds." The news spread through the fleet like wildfire as human. Ships pressed their attack. Captain Sarah Blake brought the UES Thunder into close range and opened fire with all weapons. Her ship's massive kinetic cannons sent streams of projectiles into enemy formations, while her point defense systems shot down incoming missiles. But the real surprise came when the swarm tried to adapt to human weapons. The Devourer drones began reconfiguring their armor to provide better kinetic protection, but this made them more vulnerable to the energy weapons that humans also carried. They cannot adapt to both types of weapons at once, reported Dr. Amanda Foster as she analyzed the battle data. When they harden against kinetic weapons, we can use energy weapons. When they adapt to energy weapons, we switch back to kinetics. We can keep them off balance. Admiral Carter realized that humanity's mixed weapons approach was the key to victory. While alien civilizations had specialized in either energy or kinetic weapons, humans had kept both types in their arsenal. This flexibility was exactly what was needed to defeat an enemy that adapted to whatever it faced. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in months, Admiral Zephahihai allowed himself to hope. The warriors from the Death World were proving to be everything the legends had promised and more. The battle raged through the Cathara system for 6 hours as human ships proved that their weapons could hurt the Devourer swarm. Captain Jenny Lewis led her corvette squadron UES Swift through enemy formations, like deadly dancers moving to music only they could hear. Her small ships were fast and agile, and they used hit-and-run tactics that the swarm's coordinated formations could not counter effectively. "This is swift leader to all corvettes," Jenny transmitted as her ship rolled away from a cluster of enemy. "Drones, target their communication arrays first. Every drone we can isolate from the group becomes easier to kill." The corvettes dove and weaved through space, firing their light railguns at the sensor clusters that allowed swarm drones to coordinate with each other. When a drone lost contact with the group, it became confused and vulnerable to attack from the heavier human ships that followed behind the corvette squadrons. Captain Maya Rodriguez brought the massive UES Defiance into the heart of the enemy formation and opened fire with every weapon the dreadnought carried. The ship's main plasma cannons carved through swarm formations like swords through silk, while her missile batteries filled space with nuclear fire. But it was the kinetic weapons that did the real damage as railgun rounds punched through enemy armor and shattered the mechanical creatures from the inside. Chief Parker rerouted power from the shields to the main guns, Maya ordered as her ship shook under enemy fire. "If we are going to die, let us take as many of these things with us as possible." Ben Parker worked frantically at his engineering console as explosions rocked the ship around them. "Captain, I can give you 30% more power to the weapons, but our armor will have to take the full impact of enemy fire." "Do it," Maya replied without hesitation. The UE's Defiance was built like a fortress, and she trusted her ship to protect her crew while they protected the galaxy. But the real breakthrough came when Sergeant Frank Cooper led the first human boarding party onto a damaged swarm vessel. The UE's Thunder had crippled one of the larger Devourer drones with a direct hit from its main guns, and Admiral Carter ordered Marines to capture it for study. Frank and his squad of 20 Marines used assault shuttles to dock with the enemy ship and cut their way inside with plasma torches. What they found was unlike anything in human military experience, and Frank had seen combat on 3 different worlds. "Colonel Murphy, this is Sergeant Cooper," Frank reported over his radio as his squad moved through twisted corridors that seemed more grown than built. "Ma'am, you need to see this. The inside of this ship is not what we expected." The corridors were lined with what looked like organic material mixed with mechanical components. Pipes that pulsed like blood vessels carried strange fluids, while mechanical parts grew out of surfaces that looked like living tissue. It was as if the ship was part machine and part living creature. "Sergeant, what exactly are you seeing?" Colonel Kate Murphy asked from her command post aboard the UES Liberty. "Ma'am, it looks like this thing absorbed organic material and used it to improve itself," Frank replied as his squad pushed deeper into the ship. "There are what look like neural networks grown into the hull, and some of these mechanical parts have biological components mixed in." Private Jake Allen pointed his rifle at a wall section that seemed to be breathing. "Sarge, this thing is still alive. Look at those nerve clusters. They are still firing electrical signals." Frank studied the alien technology and began to understand why the swarm had been so successful against other species. "Colonel, I think I know why these things adapt so fast to energy weapons. They are not just machines. They absorb the species they conquer and use their biological knowledge to improve their technology." The implications were staggering. The Devourer swarm was not just a weapon, but a parasite that grew stronger with each victory. Every species it conquered added their knowledge and biological advantages to the collective intelligence that controlled the mechanical army. That explains why. "They have not adapted to our kinetic weapons yet," Colonel Murphy realized. "They have never encountered a species that still uses projectile weapons alongside energy weapons. All the civilizations they absorbed had moved beyond kinetic technology." Word of the discovery spread through the human fleet and changed how everyone thought about the enemy they were fighting. This was not just a war for survival, but a race against time. If the swarm succeeded in analyzing human technology and biology, they would become even more dangerous than before, Captain Sarah. Blake aboard the U's Thunder received new orders from Admiral Carter to focus on preventing any swarm drones from escaping the battle. Commander Turner target any enemy ships that try to withdraw from combat. "We cannot let them carry information about our weapons back to the main swarm fleet." Alex Turner coordinated the Thunder's weapons as they hunted down fleeing enemy drones. The heavy cruiser's long-range missiles could catch most of the mechanical creatures before they could jump to hyperspace, but a few still managed to escape. "Captain, I count at least 12 enemy units that have left the battle zone," Alex reported. "They are probably carrying full sensor data about our weapons and tactics back to their central command." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we better finish this fight quickly, before they can send reinforcements." Admiral Zephi watched the battle from his command station with growing amazement. The humans fought unlike any species he had ever encountered. Where Cathara tactics emphasized precision and minimal casualties, the humans seemed to embrace chaos and were willing to accept heavy losses to achieve their objectives. Communications Officer Veltar sent a message to Admiral Carter. Zephi ordered, "Tell him that 3 more swarm fleets are approaching this system. They will arrive within 18 hours. The news reached Admiral Carter just as his flagship was finishing off a cluster of enemy drones. The UES Liberty had taken damage from swarm energy weapons, but her thick armor had protected the crew from serious harm. "Sir, we have confirmation from long-range sensors," Lieutenant Colonel Sam Bradley reported. 3 enemy fleets, each larger than what we just fought, are moving toward this system. Estimated time of arrival is 17 hours. Carter studied the tactical display and realized they had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The swarm had endless numbers and could bring more ships to the fight faster than humans could destroy them. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We have dealt the enemy a serious blow, but larger forces are approaching. Begin search and rescue operations for any survivors, then prepare for immediate withdrawal to the outer system." Captain Tony Mitchell, aboard the destroyer UES Ranger, was closest to the Cathara evacuation ships, and he coordinated the rescue efforts. Thousands of alien refugees had watched the battle from their transport vessels, and they cheered as Human ships approached to help them. "Admiral Zephyhi, this is Captain Mitchell," Tony transmitted. "We can provide escort for your evacuation fleet, but we need to move quickly." "Where is your destination?" "Captain, we have no destination," the alien commander replied sadly. "This was our last stronghold. Every other world in Cathara space has been consumed by the swarm. My people are homeless refugees with nowhere to go." Tony felt a surge of anger at the injustice of it all. An entire civilization had been destroyed by mechanical parasites that cared nothing for the beauty and wonder of living beings. But humanity would not let these innocents face extinction alone. "Admiral Zephyhi Earth offers sanctuary to your people," Tony said. "We have room in our outer colonies, and we can protect you while we figure out how to stop this swarm permanently." The offer was transmitted to every human ship in the fleet and was approved unanimously by all captains. Earth had answered the call for help, and now they would provide shelter for those who had lost everything. But even as the rescue operations continued, Admiral Carter knew that this was only the beginning. The Devourer swarm was vast and ancient, and it would not be stopped by a single battle, no matter how successful. Humanity had proven they could fight these mechanical demons, but winning the war would require something more than superior weapons. The human fleet began its withdrawal from the Cathara system, carrying thousands of alien refugees toward the safety of human space. Behind them, the swarm continued its harvest of the dead worlds, but they had learned that the species from the Death World would not be easy prey. The real war was about to begin. 3 weeks after the first battle, Admiral Carter stood in the war room aboard Luna Station, watching holographic displays show the growing threat of the Devourer swarm. The enemy had sent scout fleets to probe human defenses while building up massive forces in conquered systems. Earth's long-range sensors detected at least 50 swarm fleets, each containing millions of drones moving toward human space. "Admiral, we have received volunteers from across the solar system," Lieutenant Colonel Sam Bradley reported as he handed Carter a datapad showing registration numbers. "Every civilian transport company has offered their ships for military conversion. Mining corporations want to donate their industrial equipment, and even passenger liners are being retrofitted with weapons." Carter studied the numbers and felt a mixture of pride and concern. Earth's civilians were ready to fight, but converting civilian ships into warships would take time they did not have. The swarm would reach the outer colonies within 2 months, and humanity needed every advantage they could get. Captain Eddie Brown had volunteered his cargo hauler for military service, and now the UES Defender bristled with missile pods and kinetic weapons. His crew of 12 merchant spacers had become warriors overnight, but they were determined to protect their homes from the mechanical invaders. "Captain Martinez, I know this is not what you signed up for when you joined the Merchant Marine," Eddie said to his first officer as they watched technicians install the last of their weapon systems. "If you want to transfer to a safer assignment, no one will think less of you." Maria Martinez had worked with Eddie for 8 years hauling cargo between Earth and Mars, and she was not about to abandon him now. "Captain, where you go, I go. Besides, someone needs to keep you from doing anything too crazy when the shooting starts." Similar conversations were happening across hundreds of civilian ships as ordinary people prepared to become warriors. Captain Nicole Hayes commanded a converted mining vessel that had been equipped with industrial cutting lasers, powerful enough to slice through asteroid rock. If those lasers could cut through solid stone, they should work well against swarm armor. Dr. Lisa Chun worked around the clock in her laboratory aboard the UES Horizon, trying to find a weakness in the swarm that could be exploited. The alien technology they had captured from the first battle contained valuable information, but it also revealed how dangerous the enemy really was. "Commander Morrison, I think I have found something important," Lisa announced as Jake entered her lab. The room was filled with alien technology components and biological samples that made Jake uncomfortable just looking at them. "What have you discovered, Lisa?" Jake asked as he studied the strange organic machinery that covered every work table. "The swarm's network uses quantum entanglement to coordinate all their units across vast distances," Lisa explained excitedly. "But the quantum connections follow patterns based on the neural networks of the species they have absorbed. Every time they conquer a civilization, they add that species' brain patterns to their collective intelligence." Jake tried to understand the implications of what Lisa was telling him. "So they think using the combined knowledge of every species they have destroyed." "Exactly," Lisa replied. "But Jake, that might also be their weakness. They have absorbed thousands of different species over millions of years, but they have never encountered human neural patterns. Our brains developed under constant survival pressure on a deaf world. We think in ways that do not make sense to most other species." Lisa showed Jake brain scans comparing human neural activity to that of other species. Human brains were chaotic and unpredictable, with neural pathways that seemed random but were actually highly efficient at solving survival problems. "What are you suggesting?" Jake asked. "I think I can create a virus based on human thought patterns," Lisa said. "If we can introduce human neural architecture into their network, it might disrupt their coordination. They will not know how to process thoughts from a species that evolved to survive constant danger." The idea was brilliant but dangerous. If the virus failed, the swarm would gain access to human neural patterns and become even more deadly. But if it worked, it could cripple the enemy's ability to coordinate their massive fleets. "Admiral," Carter approved the plan despite the risks. "Dr. Chun, you have 48 hours to perfect your virus. After that, we launch the final assault whether we are ready or not." The last battle began when Captain Luke Patterson took his stealth ship UE Shadow deep into swarm-controlled space. Luke was the best pilot in the fleet, and his ship was equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology humanity possessed. His mission was to penetrate the enemy's central command node and deliver Lisa's virus directly into their network. "Shadow to Fleet Command, I am approaching the target," Luke transmitted as his ship slipped past massive swarm formations. The enemy. Central Node was a structure the size of a small moon, built from the remains of conquered worlds and protected by millions of drones. Back at the main battle, Admiral Carter coordinated the largest space battle in human history. Every ship Earth could muster was engaged in a desperate fight to keep the swarm distracted while Luke completed his mission. The human fleet was outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they fought with the fury of a species defending their home. Captain. Maya Rodriguez brought the used Defiance into close combat with a swarm command ship 10 times her size. The massive dreadnought's armor was scarred and blackened, but her guns never stopped firing as she carved her way through enemy formations. "Parker, I need everything you can give me," Maya shouted over the noise of battle as her ship shook under enemy fire. "Reroute power from life support if you have to." Ben Parker's hands flew over his controls as he pushed the ship's systems beyond their design limits. "Captain, I can give you full power for 10 minutes, but after that we will start losing critical systems." 10 minutes is all I need," Maya replied as she ordered her ship to ram through the center of an enemy formation. The Defiance's kinetic weapons tore through swarm drones like a chainsaw through paper, but there were always more enemies. To replace the ones that fell, Captain Danny Wright led a squadron of destroyers in a coordinated attack on swarm supply ships. His young face was grim with determination as he watched his fellow captains die one by one in the desperate battle. "All remaining ships, this is right," Annie transmitted as his squadron was reduced to just 3 vessels. "We keep fighting until the last ship is destroyed. Earth is counting on us." The breakthrough came when Luke Patterson reached the swarm central node and successfully delivered Lisa's virus into their network. The effect was immediate and devastating, as human neural patterns flooded into a collective intelligence that had never encountered such chaotic thought processes. The swarm's perfect coordination shattered as their network tried to process human survival instincts, fear responses, and the kind of creative problem-solving that came from evolving on a death world. Drones began attacking each other as conflicting orders flooded their systems, and massive command ships lost control of their formations. "This is Shadow," Luke transmitted excitedly. "The virus is working. Repeat, the virus is working. Enemy coordination is breaking down across all sectors." Admiral Carter watched in amazement as swarm fleets that had moved with mechanical precision for millions of years suddenly began tearing themselves apart. Ships crashed into each other as their navigation systems received contradictory orders, while weapons platforms fired randomly at friend and foe alike. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he announced over the fleet communication system. "The enemy is in chaos. All units advance and finish them off. Today, we end the threat of the Devourer swarm forever." The final assault was devastating as human ships swept through the confused enemy formations, destroying everything in their path. Captain Sarah Blake brought the UES Thunder alongside a massive swarm factory ship and watched as the mechanical creature literally tore itself apart from the inside as human thought. Patterns drove its systems insane. Within 6 hours, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was reduced to floating debris and powerless hulks. The swarm that had conquered thousands of civilizations over millions of years had been defeated by the chaotic, unpredictable thoughts of warriors from a death world. 6 months later, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest space station, watching ships from dozens of alien species arrive for the founding ceremony of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Humanity had proven that sometimes the answer to superior technology was not more advanced weapons, but a fundamentally different way of thinking about problems. Captain Maya Rodriguez had been promoted to Admiral and now commanded humanity's first deep space exploration fleet. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders that humanity was eager to discover and protect. But perhaps most importantly, the Cathara refugees had found new homes in human colonies, and their children played alongside human children under alien suns. The species from the Death World had answered the call for help, and in doing so, had found their place among the stars, as protectors of those who could not protect themselves.